Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Happy Sunday to all of you. Today's video might trigger not just YouTube algorithm, so probably it won't be monetized. Therefore, thank you so much for your donations on PayPal. By the way, to Robert, thank you so much for your kind words and donation. And thank you to everyone who is supporting my work, because lately I am really asking more questions and seeking the truth. Today, I will be looking into Vladimir Putin a little bit. I will present to you some videos that are putting a big question mark above my head as far as Putin goes. Many of you know that for the last 3 years, a little bit more than that, well, since the situation in Ukraine started to unfold in 2022, I was really seeking the truth, and I was really trying to see if the person they portrayed to be as evil really is evil. I mean Putin, right? The same as they did to Trump. So I wanted to see what really is going on, and if he is good or bad, what is the reason for this conflict in Ukraine, and how is life in Russia. Again, I got a very small glimpse of it. Just let me tell you, Moscow is not entire country of the Russian Federation, and we know it. It's the best representation of it, but there are many other regions in Russia that still need to be developed, and we know that. Long story short, I wanted to know more, especially lately, about what is this connection that people are talking about lately? Putin and Chabad. What is this Chabad? What is this really? I don't know anything about it. So I started to do a little bit research. Since everyone is, well, a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people are accusing Trump to be owned by the Zionists. I said to myself, all right, so if Trump loves Israel and he's owned by the Zionists, as many say, why don't we look into how is the situation in Russia, for example? And after my video that I put out yesterday, that a lot of you are commenting, thank you so much, leaving a lot of very informative comments under that video. I want to read just one of those, and we go straight to the topic of Putin and Chabad. So someone here, you can see Ghost Writer says, Russia has over 50 Jewish billionaires living within its borders that have considerable influence. There was also around 200,000 Russian-speaking Jews living in Israel. How many of those are relocating to Ukraine right now? This effectively does what Greta Thunberg could not. It guarantees that the land these Jews relocate to will be immune from conflict by warfare. And notice how they claim every land they have ever inhabited as theirs for the taking. So someone asked me yesterday, what is Russia's business in prolonging this war? What is Russia's business in actually not prolonging this war, but what is Russia's business in those people, those chosen people, to be relocating in such a big numbers to Ukraine? Well, this explains one of the reasons, I think. Now, let me read you. What is this Chabad? So Putin allegedly, or maybe not allegedly, is part of this Chabad, as I am coming across this information. And I want to read you the description of it. If this is true, maybe it's quite accurate. And it says, Chabad Lubavitch. It's a Hasidic dynasty within Orthodox Judaism founded in 1775 by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. It is a global movement known for its emphasis on Jewish outreach and education, operating thousands of institutions worldwide. The name Chabad or Shabbat is a Hebrew acronym for the intellect, focus, qualities of wisdom, comprehension, and knowledge. Chochmah I don't know if I say this correctly, I don't know this language, Binach and Dat, Lubavitch refers to the town in Russia where the movement was based for over a century. So it says that it's present in over 100 countries. So let's look into this particular video that is summarizing articles, videos, as well as the presentation that one of the members of that group was giving about Putin and about their influence in Russia, as well their influence on Putin. So let's take a listen to this first, and then we go to the next video.
In Russia.
The difference between Poland and Russia is a vibrant, dynamic Jewish community. I was in Moscow on Simchas Torah night. There were 1,000 people there. There were 13 oligarchs in the room. Their net worth was $30-some-odd billion.
Oligarchs, Chabad oligarchs in Russia running things.
Now, what shul in America has people worth $30 billion in the shul for dancing? At 3:30, at 4, so we were dancing till 11 o'clock, and then we had a break, and then we had dancing again. At 3 o'clock in the morning, on the street, and at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm walking home with Rabbi Lazar.
He's walking with Barel Lazar.
Home with Rabbi Lazar. You'd think he'd be impressed that he had these oligarchs worth $30 billion. He said to me, I had success tonight. I said, what was your success? He says, 3 guys decided to get a bris, and 3 guys or 4 guys decided to put on tefillin.
So bris is when they get circumcised, and sphilum is when they wrap the leather around your arm and put the cube on your forehead.
But we're talking here a different kind of world. You know, there was a row of Mercedes in front of the shul, each guy with a driver and bodyguards, and these guys are dancing inside like everybody else.
They're just running the economy in Russia.
They run the economy of Russia. The difference is we're the Jewish establishment in Russia.
The Chabad is the Jewish establishment, and they run the economy, in his own words, a Chabad rabbi. And I put up a video compilation of this. It got copywritten down. They didn't want everybody else to know about this.
There's no Jewish Federation. We are the Jewish Federation. There's no ADL. We are the ADL. There's no AJC. We are the AJC. Judaism in Russia is run 98% by Chabad.
98% by Chabad.
It is the most amazing Jewish community that I've ever been to in my life. It is so well organized. There's schools in this town with 1,000 students, with 50,000 Jews. Now. It's an amazing place. I mean, now there's challenges, and everything in the city is run by Jews. The shopping centers are owned by Jews. The both airlines are owned by a Jew.
True.
The banks are owned by Jews. The gas stations are owned by Jews.
Myth.
The whole downtown, everything is owned by these oligarchs. In fact, the governor now, on behalf of Ukraine, is one of these oligarchs. One of the other elements for the success of Judaism in Russia, even though he's not so popular right now in the United States, has been the friendship to the Jewish world of the president of Russia, which is Vladimir Putin. And you have to ask yourselves, why is this so? I heard a great line from a professor of mathematics, Novosibirsk.
A great line, not for the Russian people.
He told me like this: Putin may not be good for Russia, but he's definitely good for the Jews of Russia. Putin may not be good for Russia, but he's definitely good for the Jews of Russia. Why is he good for?
Definitely not good for Russia, but definitely good for the Jews of Russia. Amazing. Amazing chutzpah that they're bragging about this.
For the Jews of Russia, because when Putin was a young child, he lived in an apartment building in St. Petersburg. And he would come home every day from school, and his parents were out working, and in the same entrance, in the same apartment or the adjacent apartment, there lived a religious Hasidic family. And when he would come home and there was nobody to take care of him, they would do his homework together with him. And he spent his youth growing up basically in the house of an Orthodox Jew. So he feels a tremendous...
Brought to power by Roman Abramovich, a huge donor to Chabad, as well as Lev Leviev, the diamond kingpin.
Tremendous sense of Hakoras HaTov, of recognition for good to the Jews, and what he got. All his childhood friends were Jews, and
all his childhood friends were Jews.
I also think he sees the positive effect that they have in building Russia as a new country. The fact what the rabbis do in Russia and the shluchim are doing in Russia. Russia is a different mentality.
Amazing.
Different mentality. And this is part of the conflict right now between Russia and the United States. You can't push the Russians have to be dealt with through quiet. A very shrewd observer in Moscow told me, you can't deal with Russia like the United States. Here it's public pressure, it's tumult, it's polls. In Russia,
Here it's that we get the Jewish public pressure, is what he's saying. In Russia, they do closed deals behind the scenes.
everything is quiet deals. For instance,
Everything is quiet deals.
it's tumult, it's polls. In Russia, everything is quiet deals. For instance, there's a lot of quiet deals between Russia and Israel that you know nothing about.
Organized.
And the early meetings between Putin and Sharon and Putin and Bibi were orchestrated by Chabad. They were arranged, but a lot of the
Orchestrated by Chabad, just like Trump surrounding all three, Moscow, Tel Aviv, New York, Chabad Mafia triangle.
deals, Russia is a different political mentality. There's a lot of quiet deals between Russia and Israel that you know nothing about. There's a lot of quiet deals between Russia and Israel that you know nothing about.
A lot of quiet deals. And we see breaking Israel news. Sanhedrin asked Putin and Trump to build Third Temple in Jerusalem. And WorldNet Daily, the day Putin prayed for rebuilding of the temple.
All right, so before I give you a few comments, let me just read this title here. And I know this is a piece of crap, this newspaper magazine, The Sun. But it says, war between Russia and Ukraine will lead to the coming of the Messiah, says 300-year-old Jewish prophecy. So interesting, isn't it? Well, let me just say a few things here. I know that many of you, majority of you, if not all of you, have been following my channel for the last 3 years or a little bit longer. And you know that I have been inviting many guests who absolutely were bringing very important information, very important analysts, and presenting the story to us that you will never come across in the mainstream media. However, I am actually questioning Putin right now, which I don't think you will hear from many people that I have been having conversations with on my channel. I believe that if you want to really find the truth for the humanity, you have to ask uncomfortable questions, and you might actually put yourself out there and be criticized by other people because you are stepping out of the certain image that has been painted or created or nurtured for the last number of years. And I was one of those people who, I wouldn't say completely fully trusted Putin, but I was one of those who were seeing that he's on a good side, you know, he's doing the right thing. But what was changing in my thinking was pretty recent, when I was asking myself why he is prolonging this conflict. He knows that there are Russian people dying there. He knows that he has to mobilize more people. Why he's not using the high technology or those weapons and just, you know, they have Oreshnik. If they have Oreshnik, they can just use that. And I know I'm not military expert, but why are you sacrificing lives? And why, this is the big question here, and I would say the most simple and straight to the point one, when you know exactly to the precision of the restroom, to the precision of the moment in which Zelensky goes to toilet, I'm being sarcastic, but not really, why don't you just focus on certain buildings like parliament or the decision-making centers or one particular person and just remove it? And people will say, no, because it's convenient to have Zelensky, because it could be someone worse. Really, is it? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually all of this has been staged behind the scenes for the higher good of this Chabad, I shouldn't say Shabbat, right? Chabad thing going on that I had no clue about, no idea about its existence at all. This is very recent, I'm coming across, but I am asking questions. So now, when we look into this, What is the financial benefit? Who is profiting from this? What's really going on here, guys? Because, you know, I'm at this point when I really repeat this again. I feel we are being played. They really think we are stupid. And this truly is about the existence of humanity. Because if they want to bring back certain energy that is demonic, and you might tell me, no, this is a good person, you know, he's Orthodox and this and that. But if you are an Orthodox Christian, do you lit up candles on Hanukkah? Menorah, right? That's what we say. I don't know. That's what you do? I don't know. I'm very surprised with this stuff I'm coming across. And I am not trusting anymore because there are too many questions. And the question itself, how he came to power, just, you know, a miracle that he ended up coming into power? Or was it intentional? Or was it planned as well? Was it strategic as well? And how long he remains in power is because he is really good. I'm not saying he does everything wrong, absolutely not. I was one of those people who praise Russia, and I say not people as far as I don't criticize the people. I just want you to know, my Russian viewers. This is not about Russian viewers. This is about Vladimir Putin, who he really is, who is behind him. Because we can look at different angles of this current situation, and I am not fully buying the story at this point. Because let's take a look at this video as well. This will be about the mafia, the kosher mafia, the red mafia they call it, that exists in Russia, allegedly. And like in this video was presented, that what you see in the White House when those people with tiny heads, but they are wearing the big hats during that meeting, they gather around the US president. You don't see this kind of gatherings around Putin, really, to this extent, you don't. So like he said, there are many deals that are silent and you will never hear about them. They gathered around Zelensky. I've showed you this few videos ago. So let's take a listen first to Robert David Steele, who passed away a while back. He's talking about Jared Kushner. And why I'm doing this? Because in the next video, you will hear about Jared Kushner as well. So let's take a listen.
Jared Kushner is a Zionist tool. He is an instrument of the deep state, and he is sexually and financially compromised, according to MI6 and some CIA sources, not official. He is owned by Zionist sugar daddies. First you buy a newspaper, then you marry the daughter, then you buy a building, then you get the dad, then you take his power. This is actually on Bloomberg as how Jared Kushner is going to execute patricide. What people don't understand is that Ivanka Trump was profiled by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, both of them Mossad agents. Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who is the most famous Zionist spy in the United States of America. So my bottom line on Jared Kushner is that he is known to be an agent of a foreign power. He is known to be an Israeli firster. He is known to have executed some very bad business deals, and he is known to have been bailed out on his 666 Mark of the Beast building by Qatar. Okay? So he's compromised in every possible way.
And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
Jared Kushner.
So there you have it, everyone. It was always strange feeling when I was looking at Kushner. He kind of gave me like this lizard vibes. But now let's go to this video, and I hope you stay with me throughout this video because there are some very important information that have been provided talking about that kind of mafia that is in Russia, as well as those connections between US, and those who are behind, like, for example, Kushner. So let's take a listen.
In the Trump administration isn't. And of course, that is the kosher Nostra, that is the people around Bibi Netanyahu and the people that Trump, basically has in common with Bibi Netanyahu, including his own son-in-law. And we had a couple of stories on this kosher Nostra connection to Donald Trump this week. One was published here at henrymcco.com. Henry's a very interesting thinker, of course. He's another Canadian who was driven out of his university for being politically incorrect. And has been doing interesting alternative media work ever since. And these two stories, this one and the next one, which was the Politico story about the same topic, which was, by the way, written by this character, Ben Schlesinger, or Schreckinger, whatever his name is, who was the same guy who was trying to blame Veterans Today for being a Russian patsy. But this was a pretty good story, actually, reasonably good for mainstream. And it points out that this Hasidic Jewish movement, the Chabad Lubavitch movement, which is apparently a kind of a spin-off from Hasidic Judaism that's not recognized as Orthodox by the other Orthodox Jews, is huge in Russia. And it's been kind of, very central, or at least overlapping with the Russian Jewish mob, that is the Kosher Nostra, which is by far the biggest and nastiest mob on earth, as we learned in this great book I just read a couple of weeks ago, Tony, called Red Mafia, by a guy named Robert Friedman, who's a Jewish American who probably paid for his research with his life. So this information is so important, and yet really it's weird, isn't it, that the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, these people who are going after Trump will not go after this, because maybe they're more or less part of the same Kosher Nostra.
Well, I'd have to say that these stories that we've been doing over 3 weeks now on Putin, the Jewish Mafia in Russia, in the United States, and now we narrow it down to something called Chabad Lubavitch. Chabad Lubavitch. How am I doing with that?
That's probably close enough. I'm not really a Yiddish speaker myself, so
But this has agencies. This has outlets in 1,000 cities. It's very strong in Russia, and it's very strong in the United States. Jared Kushner is a big part of it. Donald Trump is a big part of it, and Vladimir Putin is a big part of it. And this started to come to light on that book that you referred to. We we covered a story about the book, Robert Friedman's book, Red Mafia, which is kind of the Cold War background to what's going on now. Mm-hmm. And in reading these articles and other ones that I linked to because this story is so fascinating, you start to see a picture of all Donald Trump's real estate deals, and this Simeon Mogilevich is very important in the earlier stage of this story. But then we have Roman.
By the way, he's the guy who stop. He's probably the guy who killed Friedman.
Roman Abramovich is like Putin's mentor, and so it turns out Putin is indeed been cultivated by the Russian billionaires, and he's unfriendly with some and friendly with others, and the ones with whom he's friendly are part of this Chabad Lubavitch organization, as is Trump. And we've got to go into this. I noticed that Magna International, Frank Stronach, who has a lot to do with the automotive industry in Canada, he's part of this whole network. It's a fascinating story. Felix Sater and his Bayrock group, saved Trump's real estate empire, and it's all involved with the mob and the gambling casinos and such and such. And I have to say that these stories are significantly transforming my geopolitical understanding of the contemporary situation these days. Mm-hmm. Look into this.
That's right. And
so here are a few cents from me. I know this is maybe a different kind of video again. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, to have a certain belief, and then you feel like you have to question this belief as well. You have to question the person who recently you were actually trusting and you were looking at as someone who is who's maybe one of the very few, if not the only one, who is doing the right thing, right? But I remember during my trips to Russia, I have one friend in Russia, a good friend who I really appreciate. And he told me things that you are hearing in this video, of course, not using certain names. He was trusting me to express this, and he actually worked in the industry that he had access to certain people that are those billionaires. And I was so pro-Putin in that time that I was not receiving what he was telling me. I was not open to accept that truth. But now I am questioning everything, because this could be the reality we are experiencing, in my opinion, that they had a deal, they have a deal that is a silent deal, it's a quiet deal behind the scenes. Like I said yesterday, we will never hear about, we will just see the results. And one of the unfoldments of completion of this deal is the big migration to the ancient lands of Khazaria, where they are returning. So now ask yourself a question: is this a good thing or it's a bad thing? And I know I will trigger a lot of you, because a lot of you are absolutely in love with Putin, or you are not questioning him, you think everything is great. I have to be honest with myself, and I have to have integrity with myself. I promise this behavior, this attitude to me, to my audience, from the very beginning of this channel. So if I call myself a truth seeker, I want to seek the truth. Maybe I'm wrong, but something is telling me, something in my gut, my intuition is telling me, look into it, ask more questions. And I will keep on asking those questions, and I will be presenting to you the stories that will be a food for thought. Because I know that if you are in a certain belief that is structured in your mind, then we very often experience a cognitive dissonance, which means no matter what will be presented to you, you will hold on like a dog to the bone to your belief system, because otherwise the entire vision that you have built is going to crumble. And then you don't know what is coming after. You have to redefine the reality again, your existence, and what is true and what is not. But we are living in times like this, that we will be constantly facing situations and people that who at first we look into as maybe good, you will see the other side of the coin. And it's not easy sometimes. So this is my take on. I want to know your thoughts. I am aware that some of you probably will not appreciate this content today, but I also know that there are some of you who do, because we are grown up, and I think we are mature enough, and hopefully we are spiritually evolved enough to know that we are much more than this political theater that we are watching, and they want us to believe this narrative or the other, and then they change the narrative. So let me know what you think. And I want to say one more time, since probably this video will be not monetized due to clearly we know what, probably title alone, I want to thank you for your support, joining me on Patreon, that is monthly. You have different tiers there if you choose to do that, or donating on PayPal. You can become the member of my channel as well. And follow me on Instagram. It's AniaK_44. The links you find down below in the description box, and let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge, and we are saving humanity. And I see you in another video. Hopefully, I will see a lot of you in another video. Bye, guys.